Millard South, 14905 Q Street, 14905 Q Street. Information follow.
Shots fired. Help an officer.
Please, it's okay. It's okay. Oh my God, there's I love you. I love you. It's going to be fine. Can you hide somewhere? Can you play dead?
So the school district takes school safety and student safety and staff safety extremely seriously, and I think it's a multi-layered approach. So if there were a school shooter in one of our buildings, heaven forbid, a variety of things would happen. First and foremost, we have school resource officers at all 5 of our secondary buildings. We don't have full-time school resource officers at our elementary buildings, but because of the DARE program, very frequently we would have police officers and law enforcement in our buildings. We have a fantastic relationship with law enforcement, and we rely on them very heavily for their expertise. We also have controlled access entry points at all of our buildings, elementary, middle school, and high school. So we know, for example, that by slowing down an active shooter, we're probably saving lives. As we've shared with our community a number of times, a typical school shooting is over in between 7 and 15 minutes. So by having locked doors and controlled access entry points, we can slow down a shooter and save staff and save students. The last factor is our standard response protocol. Basically, this is a nationwide approach that if there's a threat outside the building or a threat inside the building, we'll either do a lockout or a lockdown protocol, which basically allows teachers and staff and students to respond in a particular way to really keep kids at their safest and to keep staff at their safest. I would say the single most important thing, though, is that our buildings are very, very safe places. We know statistically that schools are among the very safest places for kids to be, and the very first line of defense that we have with a school shooter is preventing one from happening in the first place. And we rely heavily on our students and our community and our parents, our students really in particular. In one of our high schools, for example, 1,800 students, and we maybe have 100, 150 staff all told. And we just can't be all places at all times, so we really do need our students to let us know what they're seeing, what they're hearing. If they have any possible suspicion that something's going to go on, they need to let one of us know, and we really have good students, and they've traditionally done that.
I think it's important for students like me to be united at the Safe School Rally because it shows that we're more than just competition at the football games, the track meets, and like the swimming competitions. It's more than that. We're a community. We come together because we're in Omaha, Nebraska, Papillion, Nebraska, and we can make a voice, we have a voice, and we can make it heard.
I think it's important for students like me to be united for the Safe School Rally because I'm a senior, so I'm a leader, and I feel that a lot of underclassmen look up to the upper class to see what we find is important, and student safety is super important for not only the kids here right now, but all of the generations to come through the high school. We should all be able to feel safe in a learning environment.
It's important for students to come together because they need to have their voice heard, and ultimately they're the ones being affected. And so in order for them to come together, it creates good camaraderie amongst the school.
It's important that these numbers don't define our generation because when they define our generation, they're defining our future. And I'm hoping for a better and brighter future with less tragedies. I hope our message is that you don't have to be of a certain age to make change. You don't have to be able to vote. You don't have to be a high-up politician to get your voice heard, and you can do everyday things like our school rally just to promote change and try to make a better, safer environment.
I think that there's a lot of good in the world, and I think that unfortunately the bad is most of the time shown, and I think that we should be the generation to show the good.
I don't want this to define our generation because we're so much more than that. I mean, with technology and so many more opportunities, we're not going to let it define us. We're going to overcome it and do greater things.
I hope that our message is that just not to be scared to strive for change. If you believe in something and you want to see change, then you should go for it and get people behind you who believe in the same thing.
If I had one message to give the world, it would be that change and reform are needed in order to turn around our society, and that change starts with everyday students like us.
I think that anybody who attended today is also going to be an example of hope, because we are here sending a message, and that is basically what hope is. We're sending a message, we're doing change, we're being innovative, and we're really pushing for this. So anybody who attended today is a vision of hope.
I don't want those numbers to define our generation. I think in generations past, students have been overlooked and not heard. And I think that with this new generation, we're gonna have a voice and we're going to be heard and we're going to make change.
I think we want our message to be that it's not just a protest, and it's not even a protest at all. It's just we want our ideas out there, and we want the opportunity to get our ideas out there, because sometimes we don't have that. And we want just like the awareness of kindness to be spread around the school and our community.
The cool thing about this school district is that we have a very strong relationship between police, fire and EMS, the school district, and the community itself. So the standard response protocol has been implemented in all of the schools, not just in Popay and La Vista, but in all of this area. So all of the law enforcement within the metro area is following the same protocol. Which makes it very easy for us to all train together. If there was ever an active shooter situation in any of the schools in this area, we would all respond in the same way because the training is the same. So we've implemented the standard response protocol. There are school resource officers in the middle and high schools of the Popay and La Vista School District, and our law enforcement agencies train very hard. We work together to implement a lot of the safety procedures in the schools. We've made some adjustments and changes to the actual physical security in all of the buildings, all the school buildings, and that's constantly being monitored and upgraded. We've, like I said, implemented school resource officers, and we're trained in all the active shooter procedures. And our law enforcement agencies all train together. We all work together when we talk about the safety of the school. You know, we've done some live drills. We did one down at Papio South that was a fantastic event in the fact that it was as real life as we're going to get, you know, without it really happening. And so that every time we train, we develop a stronger skills and a stronger response and a stronger plan, and it just becomes kind of second nature. So the buildings themselves, we've implemented that doors are locked. Front doors, main entrance, you have to buzz into the building, so there's some physical security. The campuses all have law enforcement officers, and if we don't have an officer in that specific school, our responses to calls are very quick. All law enforcement agencies in this area have a really quick response to calls. So Again, it comes down to teamwork. You know, we're all in this to provide the safety for our students. So it's the school, it's the community. We've also put in on the district websites and on law enforcement pages, it's a link to what's called tips. And that's an opportunity for people to, if they see something, to say something. Let's report an incident. And it's a way for people to remain anonymous if that's what they choose to do. But it's a good way for us to get information if we have a possible threat, if we have somebody that's of concern, their behavior's of concern, or an incident occurred that maybe the school and law enforcement aren't aware of, but we should be on top of because it could lead to something. I would really like to draw attention to that because I think that's being underutilized. There is a way for the community, not just students, but the whole community to use that app to submit information, not just for the school to be aware, but also for law enforcement so that we're sharing that information.
So we have an outstanding relationship with law enforcement. There's at least 3 different jurisdictions in the Papillion-La Vista Community Schools. We work closely with La Vista Police Department, Papillion Police Department, Sarpy County Sheriff's Office, and a bit of the office, Offutt security detail also works with us on a pretty regular basis. So Paul Bond, our Director of Student Service, meets with law enforcement at least quarterly to discuss safety protocol. I meet regularly with Chief Lawston in La Vista and Chief Lyons in Papillion. Again, a very positive relationship. And just a number of years ago, we held a joint standard response protocol county-wide event where we simulated a school shooting at Papillion-La Vista South. And we use that as an opportunity not only to try out the standard response protocol, but also to learn from our mistakes. And there were some things we found that we do really well, and frankly, we found out some things we need to do even better. And that's what I'm so proud of with this school district is we're constantly learning, we're constantly doing things better and looking for a way to keep our staff and students even more safe.
So the big thing is that when the school are conducting their drills, and there is a standard for each of the schools to practice these drills so many times throughout the school, the kids need to take it very seriously. I know it's a drill and sometimes we get a little lax during drills, but it's important to think about what we're actually doing when we're doing those drills because they're there for a reason. If we do have an incident, then we know in our mind, oh, we've practiced for this. This is what I need to do in this situation. And so that's the first thing that really encourage them is to follow that standard response protocol that's in the schools because that's what these drills are built upon. And to take those drills seriously when we're asking them to participate in them. Follow directions and just do what they're being told because the staff, the law enforcement officers, everybody that's going to be involved in those situations, we train really hard, and so their active response is important to their safety as well.
The standard response protocol is based not on individual scenarios, but on the response to any given scenario. The differentiation between lockout and lockdown is a critical implement in SRP. A lockout recovers all students from outside the building, secures the building perimeter, and locks all outside doors. This would be implemented when there is a threat or hazard outside of the building. Criminal activity, dangerous events in the community, or even a vicious dog on the playground would be examples of a lockout response. While the lockout response encourages greater staff situational awareness, it allows for educational practices to continue with little classroom interruption or distraction. Lockdown is a classroom-based protocol that requires locking the classroom door, turning off the lights, and placing students out of sight of any corridor windows. Student action during lockdown is to remain quiet.